Hi everyone. Wow, I'm glad to see so many of you here braving the cold. Hope you got some good food and some drink out there. We're here to be a home for you guys. So, one of the best things about this house at Sunrise is that we are representing all of Asian America. And one of the dangers and one of the pitfalls of talking about Asian America is that we often are portrayed as a monolith, where all of Asian Americans have the same values, have the same stories, and have the same culture. Now, we at Sunrise have the opportunity to tell you about all the ways that that is not true. And one of the cultures that often gets overlooked in talking about Asian America is the Native Hawaiian culture and Greater Pasifika. So it was really important to all of us at Sunrise to dedicate a panel to talk about the journey of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders and their storytelling, how far we've come, what the challenges are, and where we have yet to go. So these next 45 minutes are going to be dedicated to just that. To help me do that, we've assembled an incredible group of panelists. And I'd love to introduce them to you one by one. Now, I have to write all this down. Their achievements are too numerous for me to memorize. So let me get to the right page. Yes. To start us off, we have an award-winning producer from Hawaii. She's worked in the production industry for over 30 years. I first met her when she was working on Lost. She then went on to work on Hawaii 5-0, where she was credited as a producer. She's worked on projects such as The Wind and the Reckoning, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, Wrecking Crew, starring Jason Momoa and Dave Bautista, that's shooting right now in Hawaii. Chief of War, the Jason Momoa project that did not shoot in Hawaii, and we'll talk about that. She served on the board of directors for the Hawaii International Film Festival for 15 years. She started all the way from a production assistant to now one of the most established producers on Hawaii, and she's working on a national level. Please welcome Angela Laprete. Yes, next. Another person that I've had the pleasure of knowing for many, many years. This man has, if you ever heard of water safety units on a TV show or a film, it's because of this man. He created the concept of water safety units for television and film production. Not only that, he invented what's called the rescue sled, which is used every day by lifeguards around the world in saving people who have gotten themselves in over their heads, no pun intended. He's a director, he's a stunt coordinator, he's a master waterman. He's known as one of the world's greatest watermen in the world. He's also a legendary big wave surfer. He's collected 1,000 surfing trophies, competed in over 30 Eddie Aikau big wave contests. And if you know what that contest is, you know that's serious stuff. He's currently director, the water unit director on Rescue High Surf, the TV show on Fox. He's a producer of Chief of War. He's also an actor on Wrecking Crew with Dave Bautista and Dwayne Johnson. Now, not Dwayne Johnson, Jason Momoa. Apologies. Now, if on the scale of mammals who have made their lives comfortable in the water, there are whales, there are dolphins, and then there's this man. Please welcome Brian Keaulana.
Biggest introduction.
All right. Next, we have a vice president and head of a studio, Procter & Gamble Studios, to be specific. You've never heard of Procter & Gamble Studios? Well, this is exactly why she's here. She leads P&G's mission to create innovative advertising experience that consumers look forward to, and in the process, She has garnered over 25 industry awards, including a Grand Prix Cannes Lion. She has been the creative expert for brands such as Bounty, Charmin, Gillette, Pantene, Always, and Pampers. She's also helped create Emmy-nominated documentary features like The Cost of Winning on HBO. She's the EP on an Oscar short-listed one called Coded, and the freebie docuseries The Tent Mender. And she's here talking about a new project as well. Please welcome Kimberly Doebereiner. And last, but certainly not least, we have a director. This director is Melbourne, Australia-based. She's directed music videos for artists like Jen Clower and Vance Joy. She's created content for companies such as New Balance and Vice Media. She directed the 2023 short film called Hafakasi, winning Best Emerging Australian Filmmaker at the Melbourne International Film Festival. Her short also was showcased at Tribeca. You might have heard of that film festival. And this year, she is at Sundance with a short that is in competition in the short film category. It's called Stranger Brother. Please welcome Annelise Hickey. So we have a powerhouse panel. I'm sure you have lots of questions. I'm going to ask a few just to get us kicked off. Angie, why don't I start with you? Now, you started your career as a PA in Hawaii. Can you talk a little bit about what the industry was like then, and what the mainland industry was like then when it came to Hawaii? And briefly, if you can, just give us an overview of where the industry is now compared to that time.
Aloha, everyone. Yeah, that was a long time ago. So 30 years or a long time ago, I graduated from UCSB for film school. I did, the traditional route of what you think you would, if you were interested in film at the time. My first, as a PA, it was a Race to the Sun with Halle Berry. I remember that because I knew nothing about anything. And I learned a lot then, but as I worked, because we only have 45 minutes, I'll make it very brief. But what really, I think back then it was studios coming to Hawaii. Hawaii, everyone comes to Hawaii to shoot. And studios come and they bring their people. And I will say that during my time, I was a coordinator for 10 years. And that's when I really got to know studio executives and what a producer really did and all this, bringing all the elements together. But at the time, there wasn't things like internships and how do we elevate people in Hawaii, And so I think that's the biggest change, I would say, Daniel. And at the time too, I came up the independent route as well. I love independent films. I did a lot of short films and features through HIF. HIF, was one of the pathways for many of the films from Hawaii.
That's the Hawaii International Film Festival, for those who are not familiar.
Yeah, and that's such a valuable time for me. But now it's a completely different time with us telling more stories from Hawaii, Pacific Islands. Now we're visible, I should say, and really, I wasn't involved so much back then with the cultural aspect of filmmaking and stories. It really came about with, I'd say, just a few years ago with Winning the Reckoning, and how that was the first film to have Olelo in it. And if you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon now. But
Olelo is the Hawaiian
language. Yeah, and that's when I started to go, oh my God, and really with independent filmmaking, that's where you can control the narrative, and also bringing in cast and crew and who you want to work with. And that's where my love really and my passion was in. So now, as we're looking at today and co-founding ICANN, which we'll talk about later, but whenever I get hired as a producer, and I want to thank Jason Momoa because we've known him for, since he was 19, and he came back, through the years, they're related, but I was like a big sister to him, and he came back and he was so loyal through the years. He'd call and he'd say, "It's Jason Momoa, give me a call," I was like, oh my God, I haven't talked to you in 10 years, okay. But, he was always loyal, and when he talked about chief of war. We'll talk about that later too. But like that's when, you know, I think I learned to value myself, because this is something I talk about with Brian a lot, is because we're in Hawaii, a lot of times studios come, they never hire local producers. And I think that's anywhere, a lot of places, right? And why wouldn't they, you know? But they like our expertise and our knowledge, but they don't hire us. So we kind of created our own pathways in that world right now. But anyway, in terms of that, it's learning, you know, what I've learned through the past is value yourself, know your worth, and create opportunities when you're given those opportunities. Because I always take that responsibility as a producer to elevate others. If I'm being put in that position, I always want to elevate others around me. So we create internships and things like that. So that's what's changed a lot, I would say.
And you know, being elevated is how you kept going and you elevated others. Like Brian. Like Brian, you worked in Hawaii and lived in Hawaii your whole life. And you know, when Angie's talking about things like the things that the culture contributes to productions outside of Hawaii, the knowledge and expertise that they look for, one of those things is always the relationship of water to Hawaii. I can't think of anyone better to ask this question to than you. When I say, when productions come in and they say, oh yeah, we want to shoot this in the water, we need a water unit. What's the first thing that they don't know that you feel like you need to educate them about and teach them about, and then talk about why the transition is important to not just teach and educate, but also participate?
Yeah, so, you know, in Hawaii growing up, my father being a waterman himself, a legendary surfer and big wave rider, he also was the first voyager that circumnavigated from Hawaii to Tahiti using terrestrial stars. So, you know, having all those knowledge in our background and trying to portray and teach people that, right? You know, those kind of things. But, you know, in Hollywood, when I was working in my younger years, I've seen a lot of mistakes where most of Hollywood would say, water is the hardest thing to work in. And for us, we'd be like, that's the easiest thing, you know? And it was just educating them. Because for us, you know, the ocean is our school, but for them, it was their church. Because for us, we educated. For them, they was talking to God because they was underwater being held down. You know? So you go to school, you go to church.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, like again, I think for me, the power of water, the power of the ocean, really gave me my elevation, right? Because people saw in the worth of who I was, and it wasn't until what Angie said, the worth of me, my elevation was saying no to things. As soon as I started saying no, then people was, well, then what does it take? We said, well, you need this, and this is who needs to pay. So again, understanding the whole spectrum of production, becoming a producer, and understanding from the lowest paid people to the highest paying, who does what and where, you know, developing one body that is not a gorilla for me, but really something, you know, designed for water, like one dolphin that we real quick moving, fluid, and adapt. And the ocean is it's the biggest diva out there. She would never listen to you. You know? So things change, and you know, Matt, right? Things change quick and fast, so you need to adapt. And that's the whole thing. When you have a crew, and you have a director, and all people that are willing to adapt to the ocean, you can create magic.
Why is it important, though, not just to be a consultant, but instead to actually be a producer, a director in these kinds of projects?
I think, you know, again, it's the part of how much time do we spend educating versus you have the answers, you know? So I rather hire people that I'm not babysitting or educating. They already got the answers. So hire these people, and it's like they know what to do. Grips that can swim, people that can light underwater, sound people that are not afraid of water. You know, all these kind of things, and it's just specialized, you know, of those kind of crews and people. And then even, and weather, but the big thing is even talent, the actors. You know, give you an example, Blue Crush, Brian Grazer comes to me and you know, what do you need? I said, well, I need the actors as long as you can. Gave me Michelle Rodriguez and Kate Bosworth for 8 weeks. And then we ended up teaching them to where Kate can hold her breath, and she was surfing giant waves, you know, and she was super comfortable in surf. So I think it's having the talent, and like you, Daniel, at Lost, right? Having that time with you guys, and then having that trust, because before you trust me, you gotta trust yourself, trust the process, trust our team.
No, I had to trust you first.
Oh yeah. I give you an inside thing, because everybody says, what about the sharks? And I go, well, if you're going salty, there's sharks. The other thing too is that we would have guys that we watch and look for them, so we feel comfortable as long as the water's clear. But we have people always watching, so for us, we have a code that we would say jellyfish. So when so when Daniel hears guys jellyfish, pull guys out of the water, right? Okay, we're gonna move spots. Why are we pulling out? I don't like it sting, but that was the code, right? Just so the talent not freaking out.
This is a true story. If anyone remembers the end of the first season of Lost, where a bunch of us are on a raft, we were shooting at night in open water, many nights in a row, and Brian was out in the water when we were on the raft, and we would constantly hear like, oh, jellyfish. And I'm like, why are we so scared of jellyfish? And only after we came back on the shore did we realize that jellyfish was code for shark.
Totally safe. As long as we can see them, they're there and we're here.
So speaking of sharks, no, I mean that as in Shark Tank, because everyone needs investors, and everyone, all the creatives on every panel that you're going to see at Sundance always will say the same thing. It comes down to the decision makers, the people who can give us the money to execute our visions. So tell us, Kimberly, why P&G decided to get into this space, and what its mission is.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's great to be here. So thank you for having me. P&G Studios actually restarted in 2019. I'll give a little known fact about P&G. We invented the soap opera, right? Back on radio, because we put soap products around it. So we've actually been in film and broadcast and creating stories for a long, long time. And the reason we did that, and it's actually very true today, is we make products that everybody needs. If you wash your hair, if you do laundry, if you take a shower, if you need deodorant, if you need diapers, right? So we want to be with people every single day in serving them. So we looked for stories back then where we could be with people every day. And so as we recreated and looked at P&G Studios and said, what could we do? It's part of that. How do brands find ways of connecting with communities and with people in ways that are through stories, through insights, through their unique understanding, so that you can create a conversation with the brand in a different way than you would through traditional advertising. And so looking at the power of stories and what we can do when we create connections authentically. I didn't want us to use that word, we use that word all the time, but it's so critical that you're really listening to the nuance and understanding the stories that people are telling you, and finding a really good reason for the brand to be a part of that story, or even just around the story, not in the story, right? So as a studio, we're not looking to become a big studio. We're looking to find powerful, interesting stories that people want to watch, where our brands can authentically be in and around. So that's why we're doing it.
Wow, thank you. How much of your brand's mission is centered around underrepresented culture, underrepresented people? Is there an emphasis there?
Our brands are looking to serve every person. And so to do that, we really have to make sure that we can't send one message and assume it's going to be relevant for everybody. So we're always looking for ways to become more relevant to everyone we serve. So that means finding unique stories. That means showing the whole diversity that we have as a community, I'm going to speak for America, and showing and really authentically portraying those folks. So yes, we look to do that because our brands want to be a part of each and every person's life. And in order to do that, we have to be relevant to you. And that means we have to listen.
And you're working in both television and film, is that correct?
Yeah, so our projects on film we do long form docs, we do doc series, we're looking at development on TV shows. So we're looking at the whole gamut and really trying to find new business models that allow us to have, we're a studio looking for an ROI, right? I'm not looking to create content that I just give away. And it's not content that is just the brand story, right? We're looking for stories that are a win-win-win. They're a win for the distributor because audiences come around and want to watch it. They're a win for the studio because we're able to get our investment back to do the next project. And they're a win for the consumer and our brands because the consumers create better connections and then our brands can create better connection and love.
One follow-up to that. You know, there's a way to measure success when you're talking about ROI, and that's through, you know, dollars.
Yeah.
But how do you measure success when it comes to brand awareness and narrative change? Is there a metric that your company uses?
We look at brand resonance, brand love. How do people think of the brand? Top of mind awareness. And in order to create top of mind awareness, and this is a brand for me, there's a lot of different ways we've got to do that. So it's not just through advertising, it's through connecting into communities. We do a lot of festivals, we connect into specials. We look at how do we create films for communities. So yes, we measure brands by brand growth and who are we winning with, and we look at how our household penetration is winning across everyone. And then we look to find ways to serve folks where we need additional, where we might have gaps and we might need to grow more.
And are you looking to identify projects through scripts, or are you taking bets on filmmakers like Annelise, or is it all of the above?
It's a little bit all of the above. We're working with entertainment partners. So I would say we're not assuming that we have depth of knowledge in this entertainment industry. This is a really complicated, tough industry. And so we work with partners like Dentsu Entertainment, who's our current project, with Imagine, with Spring Hill. So we work with folks who know the industry, understand the industry, and who many people are going to try to pitch their projects. And so we're interested in sports, we're interested in music, we're interested in different untold stories. And we tell those to the folks we're working with, and so as they're hearing from different folks, we then can find projects we want to work in partnership with. We're not looking to do it ourselves or on our own. We're looking to partner with folks so that we want to risk mitigate for everyone, but also we go in with better knowledge and better understanding of the industry.
Okay. Well, let me take this opportunity to introduce you all to Annelise. Annelise, people should know your work, and congratulations for being selected for competition at this year's Sundance. It's a great achievement.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch Afakasi, and I was really touched by it because I think it's beautiful, it's poetic, and it's very personal. And I haven't gotten a chance to see Stranger Brother, which is the short film in this year's festival. Go see it if you can, because I want to as well. Can you talk a little bit about the themes that are important to you and resonate with you in the context of NHPI and Pasifika filmmaking and stories that haven't been told?
Absolutely. Malo Elele, Kia ora, aloha, hello everyone. Thanks so much for having me as well, Daniel. I guess I live in Melbourne, I'm Tongan Australian, I live in diaspora, so the stories that are important to me, I'm noticing about my work are the themes that come back are belonging and identity. You know, living not in Tonga and being disconnected from culture is, it's hard to own your Tonganness. I was nervous about coming today to be the director, writer, representative of all of Polynesia. Whoa, that's a big weight to carry, you know? But what's beautiful is like filmmaking has made me really own it, and it took me a long time to write Hafakasi because I thought that story no one would be interested in, and then Tribeca wanted to show it, and now I'm here at Sundance with another story, and that's pretty incredible. So I guess the stories that I want to see made are stories that we haven't heard before. I mean, I feel like we all want to see that, but stories that mean something, that have something to say, that aren't just entertainment, that will touch someone who might be living in another corner of the world that can relate to what our Polynesian experience is, wherever that is, whether it's on the islands or in diaspora.
but it's also really personal and specific, and ultimately about family, which, and people always say the more specific, the more universal. And the thing I really enjoyed about your film is that, I don't want to spoil Hafakasi. Hafakasi, do you want to talk about the title, Hafakasi, and what that means?
Yeah, Hafakasi means half caste in Tongan. It is like originally derogatory, but there's a lot of young people really owning that term now. So like I would say I'm Hafakasi, and kind of like owning it more so now. So the story is about a Hafakasi kid, aka me.
Yeah, a young girl whose mother is white Australian, European Australian, and whose father is Tongan, but is not in the film. And what I found interesting about it, if you don't mind me talking about
Please.
it a little bit, it's low-hanging fruit in today's storytelling style to represent the Europeans as bad, and the people of color are equal good. But in your story, the young protagonist has a very loving relationship with her European-looking mother. And it's a source of some tension and friction when she goes out into the world because she's not associated with her own blood. But so it's a loving relationship, yet in the end of the film, she finds refuge with people, as the actor sings in the final scene, with brown coconut skin. Can you talk about that tension and how you wanted to approach it?
Absolutely, it's a very personal story. And my mum is looking after my son in the next room who's crying. So my mum is very much based on my mum and I. My mum is the most loving person I've ever met. And growing up, she really tried to get me to connect with my Tongan heritage. And I didn't want a bar of it because I just wanted to be white. I was living in a white suburb. The kids that I went to school with, that was what I thought was important. But the thing that really rang true was that my mum doesn't see colour. I know that sounds really weird, but like she was like, I didn't even know that. I didn't even see you as brown. Like I didn't see you as a colour. Like I just love you. And that was, I guess the real crux of the story. But her trying to understand, I guess now as an adult, that my Tonganness is really important to me as well as being Aussie Irish. It's not, I'm not just half Tongan or half Aussie Irish or whatever. I'm a full person, and I think that's what's so special about the story is like a mother's love is so beautiful, family love is so beautiful, and but she, like in real life, supported me on this journey to find out what my heritage was. Does that answer it for you?
I think so, thanks. But it feels like that on-camera exploration of identity and the specifics and the uniqueness of each culture is something that Hawaiians, Native Hawaiians are seeking and have been seeking for a long time to portray on camera. Would you guys say that's true?
Yeah. Getting at the mic. It's practicing the culture, right? So I see it a lot, especially from where I come from, on the west side of Oahu. It's a real prominent Hawaiian community. In fact, being brought up there, my father has not raised me; he's raised the whole village. So my father has. I've had a rich childhood. Everyone there was auntie and uncle because my dad has taught everyone how to fish, how to dive. When we ate, everybody would go out and fish and come back and feed the whole beach, whether it's tourists or it doesn't matter who was. It was whoever was around. So it was the tradition, and we get this thing called hanai, which is like to adopt. So it doesn't matter where you're from. For me, I always practice, the land doesn't separate us. The ocean, is the one that combines us. We're not divided by land, but we're connected by water. And the area we live in and the space we live in is the ocean, and it's the biggest in the world. So the family that we have is worldwide. So no matter where we go in the ocean, we're always at home, and that's the mentality that we always cover. And especially everyone that we watch in the ocean, we watch them as if they're one of our family, and that's how we've been brought up as water safety professionals in that way also too. Just having those values.
Those kinds of values are the things that it seems to me, and I hope you agree that it's why it's important that we have authentic filmmakers telling their stories. We have some great filmmakers in the audience today, people who are at varying levels of success, both as directors, actors, and it takes all of us to get to that level. And so you guys have seen the obstacles. What have you done about it, Angie?
You want the truth?
I want the truth.
Well, I want to add to Annelise's, because I think basically it's like being a Hapa, right? Yeah. And growing up in Hawaii, like, honestly, for me, I'm not Polynesian. I'm Japanese, Italian, Irish. Somehow equals Filipino, because people think I'm Filipino. but I never thought about it like that, because we always talk about our values, how we grew up. But for some reason now it's like it's so important to us, maybe because we're older too, but now is the time that there's so many different platforms for these authentic storytelling. And should I talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brian and I are producers on Chief of War, which is coming out, and our DP is sitting right here. Mr. Matt. It's from Australia. But it wasn't an easy show. It's an Apple series coming out this year, finally, after, 2.5 years of work, but it's going to be the first Hawaiian authentic storytelling, episodic, 9 episodes to come out with Jason and Pa'a creating it, 2 Hawaiians at the helm, and this is really the first show to come out, and it wasn't easy for Jason, he had to wait, I believe when he was talking to some students, that he had to wait till he became Aquaman before he could actually pitch this show and anyone would listen, And that's really unfortunate, but it's the truth. And I think that even till today, I think, Daniel, what stories, and we get people coming up to us always wanting to have us read scripts and from Hawaii, and we wish we could read them all. But I think when Chief of War comes out, it's really going to turn TV to something really different. You've never seen anything like this. It's incredible. But we as producers had a big responsibility of keeping it as authentic as we could. The sadness of it, as a lot of you may know, is that 30 days was shot in Hawaii and the rest was in New Zealand, which was about 6 months. And we love Aotearoa, but it was kind of a bummer, But so we're working hard to see right now, proactively, we're working with the government. Also thinking outside of the box. We think for a show like this, the state takes too long to do things, and that's the truth. We had the governor on set the other day for the Wrecking Crew, and Jason sat right next to him. It was like, so what are you gonna do? So it takes that to happen, and we're trying our best to really keep work in Hawaii. That's our focus. Yeah.
I think that's such an important point that you bring up, because there can be creatives and there can be producers who want to shoot authentic stories in Hawaii if it's locally based story, but it takes more than just us. It does take infrastructure, governmental infrastructure, to help with that endeavor also. New Zealand has really supported the filmmakers through some of their initiatives and their projects. And it can be a model for a lot of Pasifika, to help tell their stories and help have the government help tell the stories, because that's narrative change, and that is, as Kimberly might put it, brand awareness.
What I just want to add though, what we face in Hawaii is infrastructure. We're up against New Zealand, who has incredible incentive, infrastructure, exchange rate, non-unions, all of that we can't compete against. That's the truth. But we are looking at other ways of thinking out of the box, of maybe cultural organizations to come support Chief of War.
Well, let's talk about one of those other ways of thinking out of the box. You and Brian created an organization. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, we started International Cultural Arts Network, which is ICANN, a year and a half ago, really because of Chief of War. What we saw happen was that were the missed opportunities of, for the first time, an incredible show about Hawaii, about Hawaiians, the history of Hawaii, and 30 days in Hawaii, and then most of the roles went to a lot of Maori actors and Tongan actors, and rightfully so, credible talent. The Tangwena Morrisons, the Cliff Curtis, and what we saw for our actors, and that was our low-hanging fruit, was there's no training in Hawaii, there's no steady training, and so our program brings in professional industry folks like Daniel, not teachers, but industry professionals that come in, and we have a community of about 50 actors that we culminated in the last 2 years.
Dave Bautista, Jason Momoa,
Yeah, they've
who
all
else?
come to our, we have the Tia Carreras, the Kelly Who's, Cliff
Curtis.
Curtis, and Wenas, yep, they all came in. But, that I think that's what we can say about us too, is over 30 years, our connections with all of you and being able to work in the business, that's the opportunity we try and take to elevate others. And we're the only organization, I think, at that level with the training of it, and we have writing as well. We're going into the other crafts, producing, directing, all of that. But what we see is the outcomes. It's really important for us. And just in Wrecking Crew, I think we cast about 5 eye canners, and things like that. That's how we elevate. So.
Yeah, you create it for yourselves, and you also have, that's part of it, and also help having people like P&G in this instance to help elevate as well. And Kimberly, maybe you can talk about a specific project that you've been working on that involves Hawaii.
Yeah, so we've got a new project coming out called Culture of Winning, Polynesian Football Pride. And it is rooted in a story that was brought to us by Dentsu Entertainment. And it's the high school kahuku in Hawaii. And it's very much of an underdog high school. They don't have a lot of resources. They were coming out of COVID. These boys went through really tough times. They lost 2 coaches that passed away. And so we were in the midst of telling this story when all this came about, and around their drive back into trying to win the championship versus St. Louis, which is the private high school. So this is where the story started. This is where we started with the story. But it also, has grown into this understanding of the power of the Polynesian people in NFL and the success in football and where that comes from and what's driving that, and really looking at what are the cultural elements, family, toughness, community. We've talked a lot about fathers, sons, uncles, brothers, it's the heritage that they grew up with. And so talking both about those that have success in the NFL, and we could show a clip a little bit about this, as well as those up-and-comers who are, toughing it out in the Kahuku High School.
We talk a lot about obstacles, challenges when it comes to getting our stories told. So we have to celebrate the wins when the stories do get told. This documentary is an example of a win, and we actually have a clip. Can we run it?
My grandfather prophesied over me. One day, our last name would be known all over the world. Here on North Shore, there's nothing to do but go to the park and play football.
Why are people obsessed with football? It's because that's all we have.
Kahuku fans have waited 686 days for this one.
Private schools, they're privileged, they have everything they need.
I give thy strength and I give thy wisdom.
And why be great when you can be legendary? They will be legends in their own right. I can really do this. I can really achieve my dream.
Your name in Samoan culture is one of the biggest things. It's like gold. It either makes you or breaks you.
Mom is also a great football player. He's going to be training this son of his to be the best.
We live off the land, the ocean, on a mountain. Our core values, ethics, and habits stem from those things. And then you put that on a football field, BAM!
This is a football
family, deep in tradition, years of generations, blood, sweat that came from grandpa, great-grandpa, uncle, dad.
The number one thing I kind of learned from my culture is loyalty. I still live by that every day.
A lot of these families, they came from other Polynesian islands. They didn't have any money. They went on faith. So their grandkids and great-grandkids would have a better future from what they had on those other islands.
I'm continuing to show up and believe in the dream that I've been trying to play out for a long time.
Pray for you guys every night, just as much as I do my own daughters. That's why I think I'm blessed with daughters, because you guys are all my sons.
So you can see why it's important when you have a story a story like this to tell, that we look for any means necessary to finance it, whether it's traditional financing or new and alternative financing like people at P&G Studios. And I can tell you that this has not only been successful in this case, but from this very Sundance Festival last year, there was another Native Hawaiian project that got fully financed from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation through meetings here and a panel like this one. And so these things, so thank you to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Belle Gerard, if she's here. Thank you, Belle. These are the people who can enable our stories to happen. And so it's important that we approach this kind of storytelling from every different angle, from the producers to the studios and of course the creatives. And so to end this panel, I'd like to finish with the creative and the artist, because that's really where it all starts. So, Annelise, the movie ends. Hafakasi ends with. That's the real star of the show. That's true. Annelise's son. The movie ends in a place where it feels like it could be the first act of a much longer story. Where would you take it from here, and where does the journey creatively, tying into the story of this panel, where do you think we go?
So glad you brought it up, Daniel, because I'm developing Hafakasi into a feature. So I'll be best friends with the three of you, obviously, by the end of this weekend. So yeah, I guess I'm so sorry. I'm so concentrated. What was the question again? Sorry.
Where would you like this story to go, and in the context of where the journey of these stories can go?
Yeah. Okay. So I obviously want to get this story made, and I want to see it collaborate with people who know what they're doing. You know, like I haven't made a feature before. It's new territory for me. I was lucky enough actually to do a few days on Chief of War in Aotearoa, Matchung, who is a DP, is DP Hafakasian's stranger brother, and he invited me over just on the down low, and that was an incredible experience. So like seeing other bigger directors like Justin and watch them work has been incredible, and I think that has really helped inform how I want to be as a director. So having those opportunities to see other bigger directors work would be helpful for me, and I'm sure other directors in the audience. But yeah, and then just getting a cheeky meal of Jason Momoa, if anyone knows him more. He's sick as well. So yeah, financing it is obviously, we're in very early stages, but that's kind of where we're at, I guess.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for your insight, your knowledge, and sharing all of it with us. Please join me, everyone, in saying thank you to our wonderful panel. Thank you, guys.